WCA. Oh my gosh, it's so awesome to see each and every one of you here this morning. We have a full house for Easter Sunday. How about that? That is totally awesome. My name is Roy Kennedy. I'm the sabbatical music director here for the next few months. And it is such a joy to have each and every one of you here. If you are a first-time visitor or a guest on this morning, either joining us in person or virtually, welcome. We invite you to find a place where you can be present. Join in singing with the hymns, light your chalice at home, and just close your eyes during meditation. Connect with yourself and with the universe. We're all going to join together in singing our opening hymn, Lo, the Earth Awakes Again. Go. Stay inside.
Welcome indeed, and happy Easter. Yay! And happy Flower Communion Sunday as well. It is amazing to see you, to have you here, to have you out there joining us. I am Reverend Taryn Strauss, Senior Minister of the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Atlanta, where we are transforming lives through courageous action and soulful connection. I want you to know that wherever you are from, whatever path you are on, whomever you love, you are welcome here.
Hey folks, good morning. My name is Kate Sweeney, and I'm glad to be your liturgist for this morning's Flower Communion and Easter service. Looking forward to returning to our sunrise Easter service and Passover Seder in person. Y'all, we are too. We look forward to bringing back both of those services to our new campus next year in 2023. The pulpit flowers this morning are given in honor of Sora Marie Joyner Clark by her parents and grandparents. Sora turns 2 years old on April 22nd. Like so many babies born during the pandemic, she is the embodiment of the call of life we celebrate this Easter Sunday. So as you can see, we have guests, we have congregants in the room today, and our sanctuary is open. You do not need to register to attend service, Following the guidance of our COVID task force, we are now able to invite everyone to join us. Just bring proof of your vaccination and a mask. Doors open at 10:50 and close promptly at 11. Due to our ongoing live stream and usher availability, we cannot accommodate late entry. However, we cannot wait to see you. It's awesome. Through the live chat, we can express love and care for each other. Please take a moment to say hello to each other and to anyone else who may be visiting this morning's worship. Once again, we're glad you've chosen to worship with us this morning.
Let's now say our chalice lighting words together on this Easter Sunday. Oops. New wick. Oop, went out. Sorry, folks. Happens sometimes. All right. Yep. I'm going to try the other one.
I can light this.
Thank you. All right, there we go. May the light of this flame illuminate our tradition of seeking, invite all who yearn for acceptance, and ignite our passion for justice and peace.
please rise in body or in spirit and join the Delaney family who will come forward and lead us in this morning's movement prayer. And I'll speak the words, Delaney family. I got you. So a breath, a centering breath. First, we bow to honor the spirit of life. We lift our arms and embrace the gifts of spirits. We bring these gifts unto ourselves with gratitude and breathe and smile. We share the gift of spirit with the world. We remember to be present, honor, embrace, with gratitude, share, be present. Amen. Let us put hands upon hearts and feel the warm connection. Let love in this moment flow. Say to yourself silently, I will love myself. I will love others. And that love will change the world. Now we hear the joys and sorrows of this congregation. Please send love to Gordon and Sue Certain. Gordon suffered a stroke this week, and he is recovering at Piedmont Hospital. Sue welcomes your cards and your emails of support and appreciates all your healing energy as Gordon recovers. Reverend Dr. Edward Frost's family would like to officially share the news of his passing on April 9th. Our minister emeritus's grandson and his daughters in New Jersey appreciate all the love and respect you have for Reverend Dr. Edward. Condolence letters can be sent to Pamela Frost, whose info is in the weekly update. The celebration of his life will take place at 10 a.m. on Saturday, June 4th, 2022 at the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Princeton, New Jersey, and it will be live streamed. We will send this info out as it comes to us. Please also hold Chris Frost in your hearts and her family. Cards and phone calls of support and love are appreciated at this time. UUCA will also hold a remembrance for Reverend Dr. Edward Frost sometime in the fall at our new campus. Details of this event will follow. You are invited now to say the name of someone you hold in your heart tenderly this morning. Someone or someplace that could use some extra loving energy coming their way. Please don't be shy. Speak their name into this holy moment now. Laura, Carson, James. May all beings find connection. May all people find comfort. May all of us find more ways to be more loving to one another. As humans have gathered for millennia, so we gather on this day to gently surrender to something beyond ourselves, to humbly acknowledge our mistakes, to ask forgiveness, to seek hope and renewal, and to honor the earth that supports and sustains life, and to remember that all beings are inextricably and mysteriously connected, and to feel for one moment that connection. Now, we still our bodies and we still our minds. We take in a breath and we exhale. We relax into this space, this moment that our intentions make sacred. We enter into the wise silence.
Good morning, UUCA. This is my third Easter with you and my first in person. What? This feels like a resurrection, yeah? A new beginning. I'm Laura Beth Brown, the Director of Lifespan Religious Education, and I wonder if you know what this is. But what are these? But a very specific kind of Easter egg. So if I picked one up and I show you the bottom of it, do you have any idea what this specific kind of Easter egg is? It looks like it's been hollowed out, sealed. It's called a cascarone. So these are cascarones. And cascarones are a pagan custom of Mexico and American Southwest. And they are eggshells that are carefully hollowed out, painted or dyed, like I did these yesterday, had so much fun, and filled with things like confetti, perfume, lavender, and sage, and then resealed with tape. We are going to find out a little later on what you actually do with them. So I wonder, when I say Easter, what else comes to mind other than eggs? What images, symbols, language, what comes to mind? Bunny, spring, chocolate. What? Ham. What? Oh, yes, Peeps. Cheez-Its. Yes, all of these things. Easter is one of the holiest days of the Christian year, where the life and resurrection of Jesus are celebrated. So you might be wondering, where do the bunny and the eggs and the Peeps, etc., fit into this picture? Well, actually, Easter comes from an ancient pagan holiday called Ostara. And Ostara is still celebrated today by modern pagans and at the spring equinox. And Ostara was the name of the goddess of spring in Germany. And the Anglo-Saxon name for Ostara was Eoster. E-O-S-T-R-E. Kind of sounds like Easter, yeah? But what about the bunny and the eggs? So the story of Ostara, the myth story of Ostara, is going to shed some light on that. So one day, there was a little girl who found a baby bird. And the baby bird was dying in the cold. It only had light feathers to keep itself warm. And the little girl knew that if she could only find the goddess Ostara, that the goddess would know how to help. Well, the little girl found her and said, "Oh, please, goddess Ostara, please help this baby bird." And the goddess replied, and she's the goddess of spring and has a little fire in her. She says, "Can't you see I'm busy right now? I've got stuff to do. I've got trees to help bloom. I've got flowers to help grow. I don't have time for your baby bird." But the little girl was persistent. "Please, please help me. Please help this baby bird. It wouldn't take much for you. You're a goddess." So the goddess waved her arm, and just like that, the bird turned into a bunny. And bunnies, they have warm, fluffy coats, don't they? They don't have light little feathers like birds. And so the bunny, happy it had been saved, hopped off into the woods. And now here's the magic. That bunny, each year about this time, this springtime, remembers that the goddess saved its life. And it remembers that a child was the one who helped make sure that the bunny was safe. And the bunny remembers that it was once a bird. And so it lays eggs. Exactly, Spencer. It lays eggs. It lays colored eggs in honor of the colors that Ostara brings. And it brings those eggs particularly to children because of that little girl. So, speaking of colored eggs, we're going to go back to the cascarones. So the custom is to take out on Easter morning, take one of these and surprise a loved one by cracking it over that loved one's head. And as the insides run down, that loved one is blessed with love, luck, and new life of the season. Just as Ostara blessed the bird-turned bunny, and the bunny blesses the persistence of children. So who would like to be blessed with love, luck, and new life of the season? Who would like, I'm seeing Spencer and who we got? Fern. Spencer and Fern, why don't you come up here? I bless you, Fern and Spencer, with luck, love, and new life of the season. Oh. And so will you help me remember that each of us can bring love, light, and life into this world? Can you help me remember that? Thank you.
I love that. I would like to tell you briefly how I parent like Unitarian Universalist. So these words are from a picture book that has been in heavy rotation at our house for a few years now. It's called Most People, and it's by Michael Leanna and Jennifer E. Morris. Most people want to help when they see someone crying. Most people want to help when they see someone who is in trouble. Most people want to make other people, even strangers, feel good. Most people are very good people. Some people do bad things. They lie and steal. They bully and hurt and destroy. But most people don't do these things. People who do bad things can change. There is a seed of goodness inside of them waiting to sprout. The lesson in this book is absolutely critical to me as a parent. To me, it's about the innate worth and dignity of every person. And UUCA reinforces that idea again and again, helping me to parent and to live like the human I want to be. Through our children's and adult religious education, through the sermons here that have kept me sane and awake and alive to the world, especially these past couple of years, and through the work we do in the world, UUCA reminds me of a complicated lesson that takes a lifetime to learn. Most people in the world know that most people are very good. And I know through my conversations with a lot of fellow congregants that UUCA is that place for you too. A place where we see our first Unitarian Universalist principle as living, breathing fact. And so I give to our offering this week, thinking of that, and I hope you will give too. The offering will now be given and gratefully received.
Hesitant
and wonder in the crystals of rise, as the air sings a new song. Roll away the snow on your hesitant heart. Roll away the stone, let your light shine, let it shine. Turn away from fear to the promise of love. Let this new life begin as you roll away the stone. Blessing, and know it all blessing, and know it all blessing. When you roll away the stone of your hesitant heart, roll away the stone, let your light shine. Let your light shine. Roll away the stone of your hesitant heart. Roll away the stone, let your light shine. Let it shine. Turn away from fear to the promise of love. Let this new life begin as you roll away. This new life begin as you roll away. This life begin as you roll away the stone.
It's been a long time since I've blessed the offering for real. There's been kind of $1 in the bowl for a very long time, a couple of years, one symbolic dollar. Yes, we are rolling away the stone on our lives, on the way we engage with life, with our faith, I hope. This is such a resilient community, a triumphant community. You know, I didn't know who I would see even this morning. And just to watch each one of you come in the door, what a precious gift just to behold you and to be amazed. And you out there too, who are joining us every Sunday, we feel your energy. And we know you are there. The way that we have reached out, knowing that good people still believe in good people, it gets us through the darkest, most difficult times of our lives. And surely we have been living through that these past couple of years. And so it is a blessing to give back to the community of triumph, the community of resilience that during this time of great challenge has built something exceptional that we cannot wait to roll away that stone, right? And see what that place will look like and all that it will do and all the ways that it will move in our lives as these dancers and singers have moved us this morning. So blessings upon your presence here, your presence with us, on your gifts and generosity. Many blessings. Please join me now as we dedicate this morning's offering to the work of this congregation, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action we call community. We dedicate our lives, and these are offerings. I'm going to say into the universe, probably to Bryce, that I think I just realized I might need some water for the next bit. Okay, thank you. This morning's reading, thanks. Thank you, Jeep. This morning's reading comes to us from the Unitarian Universalist minister Victoria Weinstein. being the resurrection. The stone has got to be rolled back from the tomb again and again, every year. Roll up your sleeves. He's not coming back, you know. He is not coming back unless it is we who rise for him, we who lay healing hands on the reviled and the rejected like he did on his behalf, we who rage for righteousness in his insistent voice, we who love the sinner, even knowing that the sinner is no farther off than our own heartbeat. He will not be back to join us at the table, to share God's extravagant banquets, God's love feast. All are invited, come as you are. And so it is you and I who must feast for him, must say the grace and break the bread and pass it to the left, and dish up the broiled fish or pour the wine and pass it to the right, and treat each one so tenderly, as though just this morning she or he or they made the personal effort to make it back from heaven or from hell, but certainly from death, to be by our side. Because if by some miracle, and why not a miracle, he did come back, wouldn't he want to see us like this? Wouldn't it be a miracle to live for just one day so that if he did, by some amazing feat, come riding into town, he could look around and say, this is what I meant. And we could say, it took us a long time, but we finally figured it out. Oh, let us live to make it so. You are the resurrection and the life. So ends the reading. Earlier this Holy Week, at age 43, an old friend of mine got her very first tattoo. A single word on her wrist where she would see it each morning as she arose to greet a new day, awake and alive. Veriditas. Veriditas. The 12th century mystic and polymath, Hildegard of Bingen, is responsible for this beautiful Latin word that is loosely translated as the greening power of God. The greening power. This greenness was an expression of heaven, and especially the creative power of life, which can be witnessed in the gardens, the forests, and the farmlands all around us. And like those lands, it is something to be cultivated in both our bodies and our souls. It is meant to reflect nature's divine healing power, a constant force, but also a momentary condition in which God heals through the greening power of a living plant. When one consumes a healing plant, this divine power is transferred then from the plant to human and becomes a moment of veriditas. This experience, it's meant to be a daily occurrence as you eat, a means to stay vital with the greening power, but also a reminder of our eternal interconnectedness with nature. Now, I remember earlier springs, like last year and the one before that were lush against the odds, beckoning us outward even as we turned within, shutting our doors against the virus, fearful in the darkness of our homes. Still, the spring called out to us then. You remember that? Floral abundance blaring like the song of the phoenix that always rises from the ashes, proclaiming, even as so many of our loved ones died, so many of our plans died, and maybe even our hopes died, that life continues. That even when we die, as we know we will, life will rise again. All those tiny resurrections. the hummingbird, the azalea. Yeah. Welcome to the azalea party, everyone. Your invitation, it's everywhere. We're going to have a virtual flower communion a little bit later, but it's more like an azalea communion, as you'll see. Well, this was the year Easter got really real in my house. My children are 6 now, and all weekend I've been fielding constant questions about the crucifixion. How, why, who, and what specifically? I say it plain. Jesus broke the laws of the Roman order. He challenged the authorities of his time. He flipped the tables at the temple. He welcomed sinners and tax collectors to eat with him. He healed those who were in pain. And he talked all about a new community where everyone would share what they had, putting an end to servitude and inequity. And through his works, he became too big of a threat to the prevailing order. And so he was sentenced to death by the deliberately cruel Roman torture of crucifixion, and publicly, so as to scare his followers from continuing his work. But that was on Friday. Today, we learn that love is so much greater than death. Amen? All that he had done and said, all the love he gave, it returned to the people, shimmering even brighter than death. How many of you have lost someone you love these past 2 years? I mean, I'm serious. Let's have a show of hands. In the last 2 years alone, how many of you have lost a loved one? Let's raise hands and really look at each other. And you out there, you can raise your hand. What is that phenomenon that happens when suddenly the dead are everywhere? They become a visitor in your life. You know what I mean? Maybe it was someone you hadn't even thought about in years. But now that they are gone, every word they spoke comes rushing back to you at the strangest moments, or exactly the right moments. In death, a person looms much larger. You remember the way he looked at you. The words she spoke, they carry more weight now, more meaning. They become louder, not softer. You know what I mean? I give you a new commandment, that you love one another. Just as I have loved you, you also should love one another. Jesus said that the night before his death. And those words, they only became louder in the years, in the millennia that followed. Well, these days, like many of you, I have recently been plagued by nightmares when I close my eyes at night. I'm of a generation that has never known true nuclear panic. And in recent weeks, I have been shocked into awakening from visions of a dimly lit shelter under a house, huddling against the overlords of greed who drop the hammer of terror upon the land, upon all the land. But here's the truth of even those nightmares. Even if the worst happens, if destruction and death do come, there is another sunrise. Something else happens next. Even if we are extinguished, life will reemerge. And if the Jesus story is difficult for you to swallow, just remember our planetary and our mammalian evolution has only ever gone in one direction, toward life. Now I want to tell you two resurrection stories. One that is about changing tides and one that is about changing just a life. Two tiny resurrection stories. Now, you may have heard one of the most exciting stories of this Holy Week comes from our own backyard in Decatur. Earlier this year, the DeKalb County School Board released their budget highlighting which buildings would be designated for repairs and renovations. Many families, teachers, and students were dismayed to find that Druid Hills High School was kept off that list. Surely the sewage overflows, crumbling walls, and leaking ceilings were common knowledge for years now. Marshall, I didn't really know you were going to be here today. Now, what does this budget process mean in a time when public education is withstanding attacks the likes of which I have never seen in my lifetime? When states are passing bills requiring teachers not to use the word gay, not to support their transgender students and families, to refrain from discussing racism when they teach United States history, as though gayness, transgender folk, and racism are somehow biased, rather than merely neutral facts of life in America today. After decades of public education under attack by budget cuts, by political undermining of all kinds, and now we have some kind of endgame taking shape, an undereducated populace who does not have the reasoning skills to determine truth from fiction, reality TV from actual real life, who suddenly question basic democracy and basic science as though they are subjective. This does not feel like a veritas time for our society, my friends. I'm not feeling like we are blooming, growing and thriving, greening into something more effective, more harmonious, nor peaceful. And we have been wrenched apart, kept apart for the common good, but still, we're not exactly sure how to come back from it all. This is the backdrop for these students at Druid Hills High School, told by the school board that their crumbling building was not a priority. In fact, that they were not a priority. Now, I remember school as a deadening time in many ways. My own greening was often stifled and suffocated under the institutional lighting authorities, too, and I was affirmed for my silence more than my contributions. Like, any kids say amen? In Luke 24, when Mary Magdalene, Joanna, Mary, the mother of James, rolled away the stone of Jesus' tomb, they were amazed to find it empty. They were amazed. And when they told the apostles, well, they were disbelieving. The stone was rolled away after a brutal, torturous execution by the state after death, while there was something next. So this week, some kids at Druid Hills High School got together and rolled away a stone. They took their phones and they made a video detailing the crumbling walls of their school. Have you seen it? All the ways the building was dangerous and falling down around them, but mostly what was clear was the love that they had for these spaces, for these activities and programs and classes they cherished, juxtaposing their love of their school against the crumbling infrastructure. Their video, it was picked up by some local news agencies, and within, I think it was 48 hours, the DeKalb County superintendent sent an open letter to the school letting them know they were going to revisit the earlier policy and address the construction needs at Druid Hills High School. Now, the students who made this video will never see the benefits of these renovations. That's what you need to know. They knew this would only affect the students who come after them, who will enter those halls feeling like their education matters to us, their community. It's a tiny resurrection story. The marathon of hope, as Parker Palmer puts it, a hand reaching out to carry the torch of hope ever onward, step by step. Something happens next. Sometimes we need to find just the tiny resurrections in order to believe. The second story is a bit more personal. And I was thinking maybe he would be here today. Is Rhett Baird here? Well, hopefully you're watching online, right? A few days ago, this Holy Week, we at UCA hosted a monthly gathering of North Georgia UU clergy. This group has slowly been returning to in-person meetings. And with his permission, I wanted to tell you about how Reverend Rhett Baird, retired minister from Macon, attended this gathering of clergy. It was the middle of the day. He dressed up in his finest suit and tie. And as he entered this space, I think I was washing my hands or something, he stopped and gaped at me, eyes shining, just standing there. I realized something was happening. This was a capital M moment. I slowly put it together that I had not shared airspace with Rhett in 2 years. I have not seen him in the flesh, as they say. And so there we stood, just in silence, beholding, amazed. It wasn't only me. A few minutes later, somebody in the meeting was talking when Joan, another minister, entered the room. Now, Joan and Rhett have known each other for over 40 years as colleagues. When she walked in the room, Rhett stood for her entrance with tears shining in his eyes. The miracle is happening, friends. If you are here, you are alive. We live. Rhett had a gift for each person in the group, a couple of interesting postcards and a story he had written, because he has learned that only 2 things matter anymore: dear family and dear friends. It is love that has got him thus far, and love that he remembered to share with us. He asked that we send the postcards to someone who has been on our minds, but who we haven't spoken to in a while, someone who needs to be encircled closer in. So many tiny resurrections. When you start to look, you see them everywhere. How should we emerge from our tomb as the stone is rolled away? On our knees, maybe, praising the Spirit of love and life that we are here at all. We who have survived when so many have not. Ready to join the marathon of hope. What if we never took that time, that moment, to rejoice in the gift of life, the gift that is our life now? In the greening, in the love bestowed on this earth, in the rebirth of growth. Each year the blessing so green and with such majesty that we stand back amazed at the miracle of it all. So what does that look like? So many tiny resurrections. Love lives on when you decide it is better to be kind than right. I'll say that again. Love lives on when you decide it is better to be kind than right. Love lives on when you do what good you can do, knowing it will neither be perfect nor permanent. Love lives on when you tend to someone who is struggling, who is grieving. Love lives on when you give generously to communities who are in need. Love lives on when you create time and space for your spiritual life to flourish. Love lives on when you fight for what has been overlooked and underserved. Love lives on when you remember that word, veritas, the greening power of God, the greening power of life. And you stand in amazement at the precious, awesome gift of life. You spend at least a moment each day not taking it for granted, but really honoring what it means that you have survived another glorious, greening day. But the truth is that even if you do none of these things, if you do none of this, Without you even lifting a finger, we can believe in the resurrection that is as holy as it is constant. Love lives on. Say it with me. Love lives on. You are the resurrection and the life.
After that wonderful sermon, can we all stand now and let's sing our closing hymn, number 1074, Turn the World Around. We come from the fire, living in the fire, go back to the fire, turn the world around. We come from the water, living in the water, go back to the water, turn the world around. We come from the mountain, living on the mountain, go back to the mountain, turn the world around. Oh, so is life. Oh, so is life. Oh, so is life. Oh, so is life. Do you know who I am? Do you know who you are? See we one another dearly. Do we know who we are? Do you know who I am? Do you know who you are? See we one another dearly. Do we know who you are? See we know who we are. Do you know who we are? See we one another dearly. Do we know who we are? Oh, so is life. So is life. Oh, so is life. So is life. Water make the river, river wash the mountain, fire make the sunlight, turn the world around. Heart is of the river, body is the mountain, spirit is the sunlight, turn the world around. We are of the Spirit, truly of the Spirit, only can the Spirit turn the world around. Oh, so is life, so is life. Oh, so is life, so is life. Oh, so is life, so is life. Oh, so is life, so is life.
Now I want to invite our ministerial intern, Aiden. You can be seated for a moment. Aiden McMahon and I will lead us in the flower communion. The Unitarian Universalist flower communion ritual that we traditionally do on Easter Sunday at UUCA comes to us from the Unitarian minister, Reverend Dr. Norbert Chopek, who in 1923 founded the Unitarian Church of Czechoslovakia. He wanted a new kind of communion, one for Unitarians, celebrating the earth's bounty and the unique beauty of every being.
Serving in his native land of Czechoslovakia, he dared to preach about spiritual freedom and how the differences amongst us make us beautiful, even though it was World War II and the Nazis would kill you for being different. Eventually, in June of 1942, Norbert Chopek was sent to the death camp at Dachau. But the example of his life triumphed over his death. He created the flower communion and gave it to the world. The communion was brought to the United States by his widow, Reverend Maya Chopek.
The first flower communion, everyone was asked to bring a flower from the meadows, from the gardens, which represented their uniqueness. The flowers were then placed into a common bouquet to represent this community, this congregation of unique and wonderful individuals. And then everyone was asked to take a flower home with them as a gift of love and faith from a fellow congregant. Unitarian Universalists have been observing this flower communion ritual ever since. Love and hope reborn. At this time, we invite you to come forward as you go from this space and take a flower that you did not bring with you. And for you out there, please enjoy, and for all of us, we will all enjoy our virtual flower communion. As we continue to emerge from pandemic, we bloom from far and wide as one. So please go in blooming, greening beauty. In resurrection, go in peace and love.